Morning everyone, my name is Ameer from Bachelor of Animal Science with Honours. So today I will be presenting on enrichment and animal welfare. I have chosen this topic specifically based on the experience I've gained during my diploma and my internship. So I will be talking about animal enrichment. Animal enrichment is actually another form of environmental enrichment that promotes behavioral enrichment, which is species appropriate challenges, opportunities and stimulation for the animals. And when we are talking about environmental enrichment, it also includes the regular provision of dynamic environmental cognitive challenges and social opportunities for the animals as well. Enrichment promotes a range of normal behaviors for the animals, which provides a reward for them when they solve problems. If you're thinking about enrichment, we can probably look at zoos, for example, where they practice enrichment very often. Like many exhibits where they have chimpanzees or orangutans, they tend to place in jungle gyms where they stack up trees or they build their own out of concrete, where the apes can climb, they can express natural behavior. They find that rewarding, and that's a very good example of enrichment. So you'll probably be thinking, why is it that we really need to do enrichment? Why are we using our money and resources in order to do enrichment for animals? Well, if you're thinking about it that way, let's put in a good example of having a child. When we have a child, we wouldn't want our child to be sitting at home doing nothing. So we get them toys, we get them coloring books, we get them exercise books. They are in a productive state, which actually is really beneficial for them, as the same law applies to animals. So when we're looking at animals, we are encouraged to provide good enrichment for them. And the enrichment is good because it actually helps with their mental health. They become less aggressive, they also become more comfortable with the environment, they can avoid a lot of issues such as depression and lethargic, and if you can tell, and it's also a good way to tell when there's an enrichment involved and the animal is showing signs of they're not participating, they are just sitting down, they don't really care. It's safe to assume that the animal is being depressed and maybe there is some sort of medical complication there. So a veterinarian could actually go in further to diagnose and find out what's wrong. So enrichment is very important for expressing normal behavior, which is actually one of the freedoms of animal welfare. So when we're looking about why is it really good, mostly it's just to boost their mental health. Moving on, I'll be talking about the 3 C's when it comes to enrichment, which is choice, change and create. So when we're talking about choice, when we are making an enrichment for an animal, you got to think that the enrichment you make gives choices for the animal that is going to be using it. You wouldn't want to make an enrichment that is pretty much straightforward or not really giving the animal choices. We should give them a challenge. We should give them proper decisions to make. For example, in the orangutan sanctuary in Sepilot, Sabah, they practice enrichment by getting the baby orangutans in front of situations such as fake snakes or dangerous animals in order to train them at a young age to understand when is a fight or flight situation, because we are rehabilitating the endangered animals before setting them free into the wild, which is really important. So we are giving them choices, and from there we can see if the babies show fear towards the dangerous animal, that is a good sign. But if the babies decide to go near and don't really understand the severity of the situation, there's something wrong there and more action should be practiced on with those specific animals. So moving on to change, when we are adding an enrichment into an enclosure or into a life an animal, we have to see how much of a change it can make towards their lives. So is it going to be a small change or is it going to be a dramatic change? Normally small changes is like, when we're talking about small changes, we can mean like how we provide the food. For like pigs, we could actually just throw around the food and hide them under leaves, because pigs are foragers, they love foraging for their food. And maybe for like big changes, we can be a complete different environment where we add our own fake trees, we can provide species appropriate toys for the animals, These are the big changes you can do, and it takes a lot of thinking and consideration on the species of the animal before you add the enrichment to it. And then later it comes to creating. So you want to create an enrichment which is stimulating them mentally, physically. At the end of the day, your enrichment is most importantly should just be good for the mental health of the animal and does not cause them too much stress. We always want to avoid causing too much stress for animals. So, moving on to my last point, it's about the rules of enrichment. If you really want to get into this side of the world, creating enrichment for animals, you have to really understand 3 important rules here, which is number 1 is when you make an enrichment, you got to think about how often you're going to be using this enrichment for your animals. Is it going to be daily, weekly, monthly, or annually? But no matter what, it is not good to make an enrichment once and never do it again, because you're not going to be training the animal. If you're in a rehabilitation center for endangered species, you have to train them. You have to provide enrichment on a frequent basis. If not, the animals are not really going to learn anything. And if you're going to look at it, and the next rule is that when you're introducing an enrichment to a specific species, we gotta be slow about it. We can't be immediate and introduce something new. Imagine you are in a situation where something is just placed in front of you in your comfort zone and you have no idea what it is. You're not going to approach it, you're not going to do anything to it, you're probably going to move it away or leave it. You have to be slow, introduce it slowly. The animals will take their time because animals tend to get scared. So we have to understand them before we expect them to understand our enrichment. And the last rule is to always observe your enrichment object, because when you make an enrichment, you always have to put a lot of consideration on what you use to make the enrichment. Is the material toxic to them? Are there anything that they can swallow? Is there anything sharp that could cut them? You have to put all of these things into consideration before you want to make your enrichment. Try to make enrichment which is more safe and environmentally friendly for the animal and for its enclosure and the environment. So with all that being said, I think I've shared enough mostly. And I thank you so much for listening and the opportunity to be sharing today.